Perfect. So another perfect day. Every day is always perfect. And it's perfect timing too, because there's people trying to get into my Zoom room here as I'm recording this live. And there's no meeting happening other than you and me watching, or rather me and you watching right here, right now. And that is the absolute beautiful thing about this life, is that everything is always perfect. Everything is always happening in divine timing. And when we're truly following our passion in the deepest way, then we know we're always on the right track. And you can feel it. And you can feel when you're not in that flow. And that's really what I'm going to touch on today, is this idea of letting go of insistence, because we spend so much of our time insisting on something. I'm doing my taxes today, or starting the process. That might seem kind of early for some people. I don't know, but I just prefer to have it done. It's nice to have done. And you're getting into it, like you can see the finish line. You can see, that it is going to be done, and what it would look like to be done. And that's really when insistence happens, right? Sometimes there's things that we feel like we should be able to control, and we can actually see the end game. We can see the destination, and we want to speed up time so we're there. And taxes are a great thing, because you can just see, well, if I just input these numbers, do these calculations, blah, 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 then it'll all be done. And then I won't have to think about it again. And that's one less thing on my brain. And so the brain doesn't like to have things weighing on it, because it's the idea of having something on your mind. But of course, to get it off your mind, most people think they have to get it done. And so it's like, when I get this done, then I can relax. And I've been going through that process extensively myself recently. We've been going through that process our entire lives. When you start to become aware of the pattern, and you're like, wait a second, it doesn't matter when it gets done. And don't take that out of context, please. There's certainly timelines for certain things to get done. But what I'm saying is, God knows when the actual tax filing date is for self-employed people. I think it's the middle of the year, right? So, there's plenty of time to do that. And so there's no reason to allow it to weigh on your mind when you're facing something and you can kind of see the finish line. That's usually when insistence kicks in. That's usually when that wanting to control it, and wanting being the key word in that statement, is that the want is the lack of control. Feeling like, well, I should be able to control this to have it happen this way, but you just don't know, and things may come up. And you can really feel when you get into that rat race mode, there's this wiry energy that takes over. And it's that, we're really going off the coattails of yesterday's episode about patience. What is patience and what is impatience? And so if you're just truly invested in the moment, and you're not concerned about, where's this going? When am I going to get this done? How big is my tax return going to be? Or how much do I owe, depending on what side of the fence you're on? Then if you just don't care, but you're doing it anyway. And see, isn't that the mission critical thing? How to get in that flow is really, it's ironic, because there's part of it where you don't really care, but at the same time, you're totally invested in the moment. You're giving the moment everything, but where it's going, you're not insisting on it. It's such a delicate art. And humanity collectively will inevitably at some point understand this. But right now, very few people do. And I think for every person that's found some semblance of success, they've always found their own flow to whatever degree. They've always allowed that emotional mastery to transpire, and it's going to be different for every human being, and life themes are completely different. So there's people in the world that have a lot of money that may be exploring extraordinarily negative themes in their lives, and so we can't really relate to those ones. But for anyone watching here, assuming that you're in a positive vibration most of the time, or you're ascending to that more and more, which you absolutely are if you're watching this, then you can pretty well assume that in order to find any level of success on your journey, it's going to be about letting go of insisting that it needs to be something other than what it is, meaning it's going to happen sooner than it needs to. It's going to look different than it needs to. And when you can just let go of that, I think there's a depression that happens initially, because it's almost like, well, why even bother? It's not going to work out the way I want it. It's not going to work out in the timing that I want it. So why the heck would I even bother with this thing? But the fact is, you have to, right? It's kind of like if you're given your lines for a movie and you're an actor and you're being paid, millions of dollars, you're an Academy Award winning actor. And so you already know ahead of time the whole outlay, which is obviously the advantage. But you still got to go through the script. You still got to go through the lines, despite how the movie's going to end. And subconsciously, how your movie is going to result, what the results are going to be, what the outcomes are going to be. In some way, shape, or form, you know. And if you're honest with yourself, you can tune into that everything's going to work out for your greatest growth. That's inevitable. That's a guarantee, right? How that's exactly going to unfold, sometimes you can get a glimmer into that. Sometimes you have an idea. The more success you build for yourself, the more you can see things moving in that direction and have some level of certainty about where you're going or how you're going to get there. But still, why insist on that plan? The only internal knowing that needs to be there is that it is going to result in some level of success for you, and you're going to get to where you need to be. That's perfect. You don't need anything more than that. But our human psychology gets into that rat race mode where it wants to get ahead of itself. And that's essentially what the idea of feeling impatience would be, is when your mind's ahead of your behavior, when your mind's in the future and it's gotten too far ahead of the present moment and it wants things done that couldn't possibly be done physically. So it's out of reality. So the key goal here is to always have your mind and your focus and your perception on what's real, on what's actually happening in the moment. And from that place of balance, things will naturally unfold. And the crux of it is, or the secret sauce maybe, is that you still have to give it 100% enthusiasm, which it's like, well, if it's not happening the way that I would want it to happen, egotistically speaking, then why would I give it an effort, right? I remember dealing with that concept a lot growing up. The beautiful thing of alignment is when you actually want what you need. When you just want what you need, then you're always in balance, because you always have what you need. So if your only desire is to have what you need, then you don't really have a desire anyway, because you have no lack. And so you're consistently on this human endeavor, rooting out those belief systems about desire. That's all future projection is a desire for things to be different than they are in the moment. And then you feel scarcity, lack, enervated, lack of energy. And so to consistently monitor and then notice when you're doing, and then when you are doing it, what do you do? I was like right in the middle of, doing my taxes here, and I could have easily kept going. But about 10 minutes prior to shooting this video, maybe 15, I could feel that rat race thing kick in. And I just wanted to get the thing done, get it off my plate, move on. And it's intense. There's these intense belief systems, and they act as like drivers. But, as much as they feel like they're motivating us to complete something or to be a certain way, they're actually away from motivation. It's actually a fear-based motivation. And so think of the message you want to leave for this planet, or for your loved ones, or for your community, for your students. Is it one of scarcity and lack, and like I took action based on fear because I just wanted things done? Or can you take a different approach? Can you take an approach where no matter what comes up, you're willing to be honest with yourself about it? And from that standpoint, you're willing to take a deeper look at your belief systems and see what you're actually believing about the situation. And then just allow it to manifest itself as needed, rather than in the way that you want it to, or wanting to get it done sooner than it needs to be done. So by letting go of the insistence that something needs to be a certain way. With people, right? We want people to be different than the way they are. And so, whether we're having external force and communicating that to them, or just internally we wish it was different, and we get feelings and we project onto them even through our own imagination without necessarily verbalizing it, but they can still feel it because they're part of that projection, part of that reality you're creating. And so they're not going to respond favorably to that, but they're never going to be the way you want them to be anyway. That's the whole point. That's why you're feeling like you want them to be different, because they're not the way that you want them to be. And they don't have to be. But it doesn't matter. And the paradox is that you still have to go through the process. So you don't just stop doing everything and be like, well, nothing's ever going to be the way I want it, so I might as well stop. That's just not how it works. And life won't even really allow you to do that. I mean, people can get depressed and not take action and stuff like that. But at some point, for most people, something kicks in where you get going, and then you're given your lesson to learn, and you recognize, wait a sec, I'm chasing something here. And when you recognize you're chasing it, at least now you have the awareness. Now you can discover why you keep doing that. And then you can stop, then you can let it go. There's no reason to keep doing it. And it will eventually reveal itself to you that you don't. And there may be residuals when you're chasing something, and then suddenly you recognize, of a person, like a relationship or a goal, whatever, I guess the challenge for some people is that they actually achieve their goals that way. And so they end up in a cyclical pattern. But for people watching this, you're probably not having a lot of success doing that. It's probably just bringing a lot of uncomfortable feelings, a certain level of suffering. And so when you just step into that flow state and you allow things to be as they are, and allow people to be the way they are, they may transform those people. You may transport and align yourself with a different reality where those people are actually different, but you may not. And the point is, you're not being present. You're not following your passion. You're not allowing yourself to experience life in the flow in order to change anything. That's just a byproduct of it. But if you're insisting on it change, then you're still stuck. So it's an interesting life that we're living here. And I think more and more people are relating to it on this level, understanding that the whole experience is coming from within ourselves. And if you'd like to experience it differently, you really just got to allow it to be what it is and allow yourself to come into balance with it. And it may not be what you thought it was. In fact, it's often not. But that's okay, because you'll discover what it truly is, and there's many gifts waiting for you once you allow your mind to open up to the possibility of what is true. So I encourage you to do that. Open up, open your heart, open your mind. Let go of insisting. Allow yourself to fall into that flow of life. Allow that flow to transpire moment to moment to the best of your ability. And you will enjoy your life more and more. I absolutely guarantee that. Some people say there's no guarantees in life other than death and taxes. That's silly. The guarantee is that you're going to get to exactly where you need to get to, when you need to get there, whatever that is. And you always have the ability to observe what you're doing, how you're experiencing your life. And guaranteed, if you let go of insisting that it needs to be different than what it is, you will find a sense of peace. So there are absolutely guarantees in life. What you put out is what you get back. And everything's guaranteed to change. But simultaneously, everything's perfect in the moment that it's existing. And it's perfect in every moment of its existence. And every moment is the perfect moment. There's nothing you can do to change it anyway. So knowing that it's going to change on its own, and you can relax, and you can let things manifest as they need to, you can automatically begin to let go of insisting that things need to be different than they are, because that's just not possible. So thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next episode. Much love.